Hey guys, so I wanted to talk today about something a little different. I don't normally talk about military spouse stuff, but a couple of things came up today that have to do with that, and they're just like little things. Well, one of them's a big thing, but one of them's a little thing that like, it's just one of those things that it's a rookie mistake that I made after like 10 years of experience with the military. Or 9 years, almost 10. So the first thing, I had this assignment for school that I had to coordinate. I was coordinating with my in-laws about. I was gonna call them to do an interview about marriage. And so we set up the time and everything, and because they're busy and I'm busy, and then so I get out of class and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna call them, and it was around the time that I said I was gonna call, and they didn't answer, and I'm like, okay, what's going on? And I realized that I didn't account for the time difference between us and them. So they thought I was talking about their time, which is only, right now they're only an hour ahead of us. And I assumed I was talking about our time. I just didn't even think about it. So that's one of the things that if you work away from your family, you just have to consider. It's a silly little thing. It's, like I said, civilians have to encounter this too when they live far, like long distances from their family. But it's just one of those things that's like, oh, it's a rookie mistake. I mean, when I was in England, it was a 6-hour difference, and so it was easy to think about. Like, I would always think about it. But now, being only like 1 or 2 hours, depending on the time of year difference, I don't always think about it because it's not like this drastic difference when we call. So I'm gonna have to like apologize to my in-laws because they were waiting on me to call, and then I didn't call. It was a big mistake. Or mix up rather, but it's just one of those things. And then the other thing that is kind of a big deal is, so my mom had to have surgery on her, one of her hips. And the surgery wasn't that big of a deal because it's an outpatient thing, but she's gonna be down for like not walking on her own for about 3 months. And I'm not there. And so that's one of those things, like, again, this is one of those things civilians have to deal with too if they live geographically separated from their family. It's just one of those things you have to deal with. Hopefully if you're a civilian, you like moved because the job that you wanted was like, you know, it was an area you wanted to live in and all that other stuff. But as a military spouse and as a member in the military, this is one of those things where it's like, okay, if your relatives get sick, you're far away and there's not a whole lot that you can do to help. So dealing with those kinds of things are difficult as a military spouse, and people don't talk about those functions as much. Another thing that kind of goes along with that is like, when you're a military spouse, a lot of times, especially if you're enlisted, people get married really young, and they get uprooted from their families, and they have to move to a place wherever the job takes them. And not only that, but every so many years, you have to leave everybody that you know to go somewhere else. Now, if your spouse works in a community that's small, like if your spouse is an F-15 pilot or an F-16 pilot, then you're probably gonna go to people that you knew before. Like because there's not that many places that you can go, so you're gonna run into people that you know. But if your spouse is in a career field where you could go anywhere, like my career field was, or like my husband's is, he can go pretty much anywhere. You have to uproot yourself and move and meet new people. But what I will say is it's really vital, especially that first move, if you learn how to make friends and establish a community. If you just like sit in your house and you don't establish relationships with people that are around you, you're gonna be very resentful, or potentially be very resentful of your spouse, and it's gonna put a lot of strain on your marriage. So if you married into the military lifestyle, then I hope that, you know, you're a willing participant. You didn't just like, oh, well, I'll marry him and then hopefully this will, you know, you didn't just, you like actually thought about it, because there are a lot of sacrifices you're gonna have to make. But you can make it a little easier on yourself, and this is with any like marriage. If your spouse's job requires them to move, make it easier on yourself, and get out there and make some friends. Find some people that you can be social with, especially if you don't have kids yet. I know when I was in England, I had some friends who were spouses, and I would go and get them and we would go out. Or like if their spouse deployed and they were left at home, well, depending on what your spouse does, people think deployments are in a not so fun location, and a lot of times they are, but a lot of times they're not. Like if you're stationed in Europe, your deployment could be to a really cool place. Well, your spouse, if they're deployed to an awesome place, is gonna wanna go out and see those things. And it can get really easy to be resentful of that, especially if you have children. It can be pretty easy because you're stuck at home and they're off gallivanting and doing whatever, and they're seeing all these awesome things. So if you don't have kids, my suggestion would be to find other either single airmen that are your age, or other spouses that their husbands are on the same deployment or whatever, and you guys hang out and go out and do things. Don't just sit around in your house, because it's gonna get easy to be resentful. If you have children, just find people who are in the same phase of life as you and hang out with them. And then when your spouse gets back, make sure that you guys carve out time for you to not only spend time together, but also for you to go out and hang out with the kids for a while. People experience a lot of strife after a long separation, especially deployments, because they get used to doing life their own way without another person, and then this other person shows back up, and now all of a sudden they're supposed to have a say in everything, even though they've been gone this whole time. And that can cause strain. But I mean, what I would just say, make sure if you are feeling resentful about that time apart, that first of all, you're open and honest with each other about it, that you're not holding anything back because you feel like, it's your responsibility while they're gone or whatever. Make sure that you're open and honest about how you feel. And two, figure out ways that you can make time for yourself, and that your spouse can make time for yourself. Those are probably the best things pieces of advice I can tell people who are military spouses and who are geographically separated from their family. Yeah, I hope this information was helpful. I don't know if any of you guys watching this, I know some of you that watch this are military people, just because that's who my friends are on Facebook and stuff, but if you're watching this and you have a significant other that is thinking of joining, or if you are a spouse and you don't know me but you're curious about maybe some insight that I have on military spouses and being in the military, because I have done both. I was both, now I'm just a spouse. Let me know. Also, if you are curious about dependents, because when my husband and I got married, he was not in the military yet, so I took on a dependent, then he joined the military, and we were mill to mill, and then I separated, and now I'm a dependent. So I have a pretty wide variety of perspective on this kind of subject. So yeah, if you have any questions about that, just let me know. I know it's unusual, but just wanted to share that. Okay, bye guys.